Okay, well, welcome. Thank you very much for coming to our session. We know you had many wonderful sessions to choose from, and we're honored to have you here. We are going to talk about supporting student success in STEM with standards-based grading. And this is a collaboration between Cal State Monterey Bay and Hartnell College. And it's focused in our first semester calculus courses. Is there anything you want to add to that?
That's
intro?
good.
Yeah, okay. So this is our leadership team from Cal State Monterey Bay. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Lipika Deka. I'm a math faculty in our department and overseeing this project.
And I'm Alison Lynch, also math faculty at Cal State Monterey Bay, and I serve as the Calculus I coordinator on our campus.
And do either one of you want to talk about?
And our colleague Jeff Wand, who recently had a baby, so he's not here, but he's our pre-calculus coordinator and led that portion of the project.
And my name is Senorina Vazquez. I'm from Hartnell College, math instructor there, and
I'm Jennifer Moorhouse, and I'm also from Hartnell College, math faculty.
Yeah.
And I was the only one of the team who followed the instructions and posted my bio.
Awesome.
Shade. They were all like, "Oh, your bio is so like."
So if you want to learn more about her,
Read it.
if you want to,
You're out of luck. You're out of luck.
Yeah, when we all realized it was optional, we you know.
I didn't know it was optional.
So we will be facilitating together. And the first thing we want you to think about is that question: what is the purpose of grades? I'm going to read off some of your responses shortly, but I want to take a little historical tour about assessment practices that I know Brian talked about a little bit in his session yesterday. And so we can go back to the 1600s when Harvard was first established. They only utilized oral examinations to grant awards, right? And then in 1832, Yale introduced this 4-point system, but it was hidden from the students. It was not made public. It was behind the scenes. And why was it hidden? To thwart unhealthy competition, right? They did not want unhealthy competition. They wanted students to continue to learn for the sake of learning. And they felt that the points might, damage that goal. And so then in 1898, women were admitted into the university system at Mount Holyoke University. And guess what happened? Our modern 4-point grading system was born. And we inherited that system in 1898, and it is the system that still exists today. And so I was curious to see what you think is the purpose of grades. And so let's see, I'm going to read off the responses. Some of you said it's to check progress. Some of you said it's to evaluate. Somebody said it's an outdated system. Said it's for feedback. Somebody said it's for ranking people. Somebody said it's for motivation, for communication, for ranking elitism, for assessments. I don't know. Somebody said, I don't know. Somebody said bad signaling. And somebody said mastery at time. Oh, somebody else just said to sort. Yeah.
Students by mastery. I couldn't get.
Oh.
I had to cut my answers.
I was like, I don't know. Okay, you wrote STD and I wasn't. Thank you for clarifying. You wrote sort STD.
Yeah. We're just getting rid of characters.
So, yeah, thank you for getting our juices flowing, thinking about what are grades for anyway, right? And so we dove into this, what is grading for? And then we started to think about what is standards-based grading. And we are referring here to Robert Talbert's design of what he believes are the 4 pillars of standards-based grading. And feedback loops we trust. And so that feedback loop starts with clearly defined standards, helpful feedback, marks that indicate progress, and then reattempts without penalty. Yeah, right.
Aligning with them.
So this framework is really helpful, I think, to get the message across to those who are exploring the idea of standards-based grading, because it comes in different flavors, right? And these are just the 4 pillars that we all have in common. So, those 4 pillars, let me elaborate on them a little bit. We want to have clearly defined standards. That's sometimes known as backwards by design, right? You want to know what do we want our students to know, right? And then how will we know when they learned it becomes the assessment that we use to figure out if they learned it. What will we do if they did learn it? Provide feedback. Yeah, to help, even when they did learn it, we provide feedback. What will we do if they didn't learn it? Provide feedback. And give multiple opportunities for reattempting. And what this standards-based grading is actually something that the game Super Mario, right, inspires. And it inspires students to continue to practice that game because they aren't penalized, right? They aren't penalized, so they don't give up that game. They may fall into a cliff, but they get their life back, right? They can get their life back and continue learning how to play that game. So there's a video out there called the Super Mario Effect, and the guy.
It's a great TED Talk.
It's a great TED Talk, and he did a research on it, and he actually pointed out that he had 2 groups. One group was penalized, the other group was not. The group that was penalized had a 52% success. The group that was not penalized had a 68% success rate. But it gets better than that. The group that was penalized only tried 5 times, right, on the average. The group that was not penalized tried up to 12 times. So that was where the biggest impact is. And that's why that last pillar is so important, that they are able to try multiple times without getting penalized. And so we'll get to see more success. Now, what does this last pillar do? It fosters trust, right? It fosters trust. Our students have lost their trust in our educational system, honestly. Many students don't trust assessments. They don't trust the institutions anymore. And so by utilizing standards-based grading, we are building that trust. We are gaining their trust again. And this in turn fosters equity, right? It is going to foster equity in our outcomes and in our student successes, because it creates a safe space to make mistakes, right? An inclusive space for learning. And so this is what we really embraced with standards-based learning. We really saw the anecdotal results, and we'll be going into all of that a little bit more deeper. So we want our students to feel respected and valued, and that's why we are doing this. I believe it is Jen's turn.
All right. Okay. So we're going to tell you a little bit about how we implemented standards-based grading in, and as I'm just describing this, it's sort of an amalgamation because Hartnell and CSUMB are clearly very different types of institutions. CSUMB has coordinated courses, Hartnell does not, so it's like herding cats, trying to get people to all do the same thing, right? Like, and so even within Hartnell, we don't all implement in exactly the same ways. So, in order to implement, we started with a lot of meetings. We talked about what we thought was important. We developed then a complete set of materials in order to implement standards-based grading in Calculus I. And then we kind of tweaked them a little bit for the two campuses, right? So CSUMB is a little bit different than Hartnell's. At CSUMB, they were able to implement across the board because of their coordinated system. So most of the data that we're going to talk about comes from CSUMB because Hartnell data is really messy, right? It's like you kind of have to break it down by instructor and then it's useless. And so we struggled with that aspect of it and decided to basically just use the CSUMB data because their data is clean, right? And then part of the grant, we're now in the phase of disseminating. So we have created a set of professional development workshops. We have 5 total. Yeah, I can't remember if it's 4 or 5. So we're on workshop number 3 right now, coming up this Friday. Next Friday, sorry, today, a week from today, which will be on assessment. Yeah, so moving on. Standards-based grading in Calc 1 at Hartnell. I'm going to tell you about the Hartnell implementation specifically. So we had 25 learning standards. Those are the learning outcomes for the course. We call them learning targets in our class. It sounded more fun. I don't know. 2 of those are the prerequisite skills that we want students to have. And they're really basic. Can you write the equation of a line given, you know, pertinent information? And you have to know the basic trig functions and the unit circle. So being able to evaluate sine, cosine, tangent from the unit circle and knowing your unit circle. And then 20 of those are calculus content outcomes, where we won't go into detail. Obviously, you know, if you're developing a standard-based grading for yourself, system for yourself, you're going to want to develop your own outcomes. We kind of used some that were already there, and then we tweaked them a little bit for what we thought was important. But 3 of them, these are the ones I'm super proud of, because we're going to talk about those, are the success in STEM outcomes. And they cover sort of the soft skills that we want students to have. And we felt that, you know, if we want students to have these skills and if we think they're valuable, then we should reward students for having those skills and for showing, for demonstrating and for learning those skills. So this is a complete set of all of the standards that we think are important for students to take away from this course. And they are the basis of the grading system for the course. So the standards, you know, by the end of the course, when they come out of my class, if they have 18 standards that they have completed, those are standards that they can say, I know these things, right? It's not a 75%. I've got 75%. No, I know how to differentiate using the product rule. I know how to integrate using U substitution, whatever, right? Like they can literally say, go down the list and say, I know how to do this. I know how to do this. I don't know how to do this, but you know, maybe I'm going to learn it in Calc 2. So going back to those success in STEM standards, I told you I was really proud of them. So I'm going to tell you what they are. We have 3: utilizing resources effectively. So this one is, you know, learning to check your grade, managing your time. So we have some scheduling activities, coming to office hours or visiting the tutoring center. So students have to log in when they go to the learning lab and, we can get a report from that, pull it from the learning lab. And using campus resources and services, so students who have signed up for DSPS, they pretty much get a pass on that one, because they are using the campus resources. If they're in, one of our programs like EOPS or MESA or, those are Trio, all the programs that we have on campus. Then there's a reflection and metacognition outcome. And that we have a list of Canvas readings and activities, discussions on, several topics around thinking about thinking. There's one on imposter syndrome, there's one on the Super Mario effect, there's one on self-care, microaggressions, stereotype threat is another one, how to become an independent learner. I heard some of my students just the other day saying, oh, did you use the course on technique for this upcoming quest?
Yeah.
So there are lots of these, and Nina developed this whole list for, back when we were converting over during AB 705 in the early phases. She created all of these for statistics, and we've kind of rolled them over into our calc class and developed them a little bit more. And this last one, this is my favorite. This is one we've argued about a little bit, effective failure, because my colleagues were like, oh, I don't like that word failure. I'm not gonna, they don't have that one. But I do. And I was like, no, I think it's important. I think it's important to tell students that we value failure, right? That you don't look at a baby who falls down and say, God, you're stupid. You can't walk. Oh my God, look at you falling down, you know? Like, they are learning, and part of that learning process is you have to fall down. You have to fall down and you have to get yourself back up and learn from that failure. And so they earn that outcome by reattempting or correcting 5 of those learning standards. So either they reattempt and successfully, right? So if they just did 5 attempts on the same learning standard and they never got it, it wouldn't count. But reattempting successfully or correcting 5 of the standards. Brian?
Yeah, I just wanna, I find the word failure to be very like provocative.
Yes.
And I feel like that's kind of the goal here.
Yeah.
Is to like intentionally help students reframe
Yeah.
the idea of failure and like trying to be provocative.
Mhm.
Yeah, maybe if there's anything else you'd like to share around that.
No, I mean, that really was my, and I use the baby analogy all the time, you know? Like, we do not make fun of babies because they can't walk and because they're falling down. Like, you are supposed to be breaking things. You're supposed to be, you know, trying stuff, and you're in the phase of learning. You're gonna have to make mistakes, right? So we make sure that we value that. Yeah.
Neil deGrasse Tyson has a great 30-second TikTok video on parents who tell a kid who grabs a raw egg and run around, no, put the egg back, you'll break it. For the 30 cents of the egg, you're missing the learning opportunity for the kid to break the egg, make a mess, and learn that, hey, eggs break, they're fragile, and it's 2 seconds to clean it up. But like, that's the learning that they're gonna have that you take away from the kid if you take the egg away. So let them break it,
That's
let them make a
awesome.
mistake, let them, I just love that. So
I
I
love
love
it.
your effective.
Yeah. Yeah, it is my favorite outcome of the 25. All right, so standards-based grading in Calculus I at Hartnell. I talked about the corrections, making corrections and reattempts. What did I mean by that? In our version, we don't use a 1, 2, 3, 4, we use a MET. That means that everything's correct. There are maybe a really super minor mistake, and there's no correction required for that. And then there's an almost, which shows that they understand the material, they show competence, but they made some mistakes, maybe arithmetic mistakes, algebra mistakes, you know, minor mistakes. And I feel that it's really important for students to get in the habit of correcting their mistakes, right? And I tell them, if you are at a job and your boss asks for a report and you turn in the report and he says, this has a bunch of errors in it, you don't just walk away and say, well, I guess I'm that, you know, he gives it back to you and you fix the errors and you turn it back in. And that's what you need to learn here, is that you make mistakes, you correct them, right? So the students correct the assessment, they turn it back in, they get a met after they've turned it in. And not met means they really haven't made significant progress, or they have really maybe I can kind of see maybe there's competence there, but the algebra mistakes are so significant that it obscures what's actually happening, right? So they've made some mistake early on that then everything just went wrong after that. Yeah,
But we call that a not yet, not a.
yeah, in our grading system, we actually call it not yet, not met. To be a little more positive. So that outcome would require a reassessment. And our system, I love your automated system. We do not have an automated system. In our system, students reattempt during the next exam cycle, which means that I'm carrying around tons of paper. Because for each exam, I bring the new learning targets that they are assessing on, and I bring several copies of the old learning targets that they might want to assess on. And these are different versions, right? They're not the exact same, they don't get the exact same problem, they get a new version of a similar type of problem. So they reassess, and that reassessment is, again, entirely without penalty. There's no penalty for doing a reassessment, and they can attempt them, I mean, in theory, as many times as they want, but you know, in practice, the semester comes to an end, and we have to end things somewhere. And I have allowed students to work past the end of the semester, but it's always it's a struggle, as you were talking about the paperwork to fill out, and then often, because our system isn't automated, you know, we have to find times, schedule times for them to retake those assessments, and it becomes a little bit difficult.
Is it different questions or the same?
Different.
Different, so different questions.
Yeah,
It's like you change the numbers or something, like some physics problem.
some of them, yeah, I just change numbers. Sometimes it's a different question with like I mean, an integration problem, maybe that's a product, or not product rule,
Integration by parts.
integration by parts, thank you.
Yeah.
An integration by parts problem, right? Like I might have a sine x times x, or change it to a, polynomial times e to the x, or sine x e to the x. So that would be probably not an exam question, because that one's too hard, but, they change, but they don't change so significantly, because they're all going to be integration by parts problems. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the learning targets. There are 22. Students earn a MET 3 times to pass a learning target. And that sounds like a lot, because it's like, oh my God, you've got 22 learning targets and they have to meet them 3 times. Wow, like you're doing 66 different assessments. But we automate some of those, and we really scaffold them. So the first pass at a learning target is really low stakes, right? They're just watching a video. We're using the book Active Calculus. I don't know if any of you are familiar with it, but so in our classrooms, we have a really active learning environment, and there are videos available outside of class. It's really a flipped classroom. And so every section of the book comes with a preview activity that students are supposed to do before they come to class. But the preview activities sometimes are a little bit tough and they don't always get through them. So Nina developed this great idea of, instead of them working through the preview activity and getting stuck and not getting anywhere on it, she has set up these activities online She found videos of people working through the preview activity, so the students watch the video, they take notes, which means that at least one time during this process, they have good notes in real mathematical notation, right? So they take notes, they upload their notes, and then it's just grade checker on Canvas. You just go through really quickly and say they did it, they did it, they did it. The second step is an online quiz. We're using MyOpenMath. Any software would work, right? The quiz, we give them, it's set up as a quiz. Where they have to retake the entire quiz if they don't hit the cutoff. For us, the cutoff is 80%. I mean, you could work, play around with that. I felt like 80% was good. It means like B-level work, right? So they have to hit that 80% mark. If they don't hit it, they still have 3 more attempts. And then after that, I want to have a conversation with them. Because like, okay, you tried this 4 times and you didn't get there. What are you gonna do the next time? Like, I'll give you more attempts, but what are you gonna do before you take it again? Because something needs to change, right? Like, you're not making progress. So they have 4 attempts for free, but then after that, I always give them more attempts. I just kind of have a talk with them, like, maybe you should go back and do the homework for this section. We do have exercises set up. They're not for points or anything, but they're just for practice,
Well, those have become like the homework exercises in
Yeah.
disguise, right?
Yes.
Because they are avoiding homework, but they don't avoid the quizzes.
Right. Call something a quiz. They
So, and so we also, and we also noticed that some students were using outside resources like videos and stuff. So we decided to just enable the videos in those online quizzes. And so that's why it's a medium stakes. They still have to solve the problem, but they have access to videos, and it's just homework in disguise because they have to do it until they get 80%.
Yeah. Yeah, so I thought that was a really brilliant, hiding homework in this, in plain sight, right? But, if they hit 80% on the first try, then why do they need to do 25 busy work problems, right? And if they don't hit it on the first try, then, maybe they do need to do all this. Yeah.
About how many questions are on there on one quiz?
Around 10. It varies, depends on the length and difficulty of the problems, but anywhere from, I'd say, 6 to 10.
Is that for the same learning target, or does it have multiple on the same?
No,
quiz?
each quiz is a learning outcome. Yeah. Mhm.
So you guys don't have homework?
There are exercises that are available in MyOpenMath as well.
But it's
And the
optional.
quizzes are taken directly from the exercises. And I tell students that all the time, right? Like, you can do the exercises in a non-timed setting. You can reattempt the problems as many times as you want. They have solutions, they have videos, right? You can do it all there, and then if you go to the quiz, like, you will have done all of these problems before.
And just to address what I think you're wondering about, the homework is optional because it can't be part of the grade when you're grading on standards.
Yeah.
Right, so that's why the homework isn't required, because it's not going to be included in the grade in
Yeah,
any way.
there's no more the like 10% or 15% for doing homework, like just turning in a bunch of papers that I'm not gonna read, and it's busy work. It really is just busy work. And yeah, it's practice, and we want students to practice these skills, but if they can pass the quiz on that first round, then they don't need more practice, right? That's the idea. The last assessment, the last check mark in their list, to check off that learning outcome is a high stakes in-class timed assessment. And I have a few different ways of doing that. I have traditional exams. But I also have, I stole this from Brian Palmer. I have minute quizzes, which I love. And so these are sort of simple, compute the average rate of change of a function over an interval, right? You can do that in under a minute. And that is one of the outcomes for the course. And so we assess that in class as minute quizzes on kind of a rotating basis. And they have to get it twice. So they don't count, a minute quiz doesn't count as much as an exam, but they're seeing them over and over again.
Don't forget to mention interview.
And I was going to say, and the other way is interviews. And so those are for the big student learning outcomes for the course. I assess them in interview assessments. And then they actually have to do another assessment at the end of the semester. That's my final exam, because one of the things about standards-based grading that you might find is that the end of the semester feels a little anticlimactic because there's no final. So I was like, man, I'm feeling a little like I need to implement a final exam. So I just took those 3 student learning outcomes, turned that into the final. They have to do those one last time, plus whatever reassessments they need to do for the rest of the class. All right, and then Lipika's gonna tell us more about
Sorry, can I ask a
CSUMB's
question about
implementation.
On
Yeah.
the final exam work, and compared to the problems done in the second one, are they the same, or do you, because sometimes professors have a view that I'm gonna make especially hard and complex problems to allow students to pull it all together during the final, which to
So-
me is insane.
Mhm.
But, so I'm just
So
curious.
the,
You have heard that reason?
yeah. So for example, one of the student learning outcomes is, I can take a derivative of a function using all of the rules of derivatives. So for that learning outcome, I would have probably 3, maybe 4, 3 problems, I think. The first one would be a fairly simple, like a polynomial and maybe trig function or an e to the x or something. And then the next one would have more like a product rule or a quotient rule, maybe an inverse trig function thrown in. And then the third one would probably be kind of an insane, a little bit harder combination of rules where you have like a product rule inside of a chain rule
But would
with
they
a
have
quotient.
practiced those before, or would that be the first time they would be seeing that, and it's up to them?
That's a good question.
No, they would have seen them before,
Okay, yeah,
because those would be on the interview, right?
Okay, yeah, right.
And so we would have not only seen them, but we would have talked through them together. Yeah. All right. Take it away.
I'll tell you a little bit about how this changes. As you know, we're doing this in both campuses, and as you heard earlier, that at CSUMB, we have highly coordinated lower division classes, which includes our pre-calculus and all our calculus series. So wanted to give you an idea how we try to sort of simplify it in a way so that it's manageable by different sections and different instructors. So for example, calculus here, we have 18 learning targets, and these are content learning targets for calculus. We do want to enforce habit of minds like Hartnell is doing as other learning targets, but for us, those come to play in a slightly different way. So, but other big difference here is that all our content learning, they just need to meet once in the semester. And other thing we purposely tried to do here is that most of our assessment, in fact, all of our assessments are in-class assessment, because we kept in mind that all the students that we're trying to give a flexible assessment actually doesn't have so much time outside of class because they are working heavily and a lot of other things. So we had to be mindful of that, and that to kind of accommodate that, all of our assessments are done either in a quiz or a test. All of them are done in class time. So, but they do have reassessment, which are outside of class. In fact, in our calculus, they reassess outside of class after some time, because some of them they can reassess in the following quiz or the exams. And then if they still need more, then they can go outside. But for pre-calculus, we're trying to build everything in the in-class time. So keep that option for students. So other thing that we wanted to do here, because we wanted to give our classes have pre-class assignment and homework. And we didn't want them to just become, have no stake on the grade. So we brought in homework in calculus to give them a plus or a minus. And in pre-calculus, the previous class assignments, I think this table kind of shows you how we are kind of bringing it into. So we actually built in that not just that you meet 15, but you also have to do some of those pre-class assignment. And pre-class assignment in pre-calculus looks like there are two things they do. In pre-calculus, they do a couple of pages or a section of the book as a reading assignment. And then they also follow that by a video lecture. And that lecture has questions inserted into it. I don't know if you have used Play Pause It. So that's the software we're using to create those. So they read the chapter, then they watch the video, and then answer the questions. So those come to play in getting an A, B, or C. So that's kind of a much more simplified, and all our assessments, every target gets assessed on a quiz first, and then it comes. So you have layering of quizzes and then exam, 1 or 2 quiz, then exam, and then so on. So everything that comes before an exam, all the learning targets, you get to reattempt them again in that following exam. Quizzes focuses on only 1 or 2, but exams bring everything before you. And we have several exams through this semester to kind of give them more options to do that. And later on, we have a slide with a lot of goodies for you, so you can actually see a lot of the details if you want to. I also wanted to give you a little bit of background into where this, so if you are hearing Calculus 1, then we're talking about pre-calculus, and now we are thinking about extending to other STEM courses. So I wanted to give you a little bit of a context of where that is, how they are fitting. So we actually had a 1-year grant, our first grant, we call it Grading for Growth, that we worked on our Calc 1, both at Hartnell and CSUMB. And then our second extension grant, which is what we are mostly focusing on today, kind of followed what we did for our first grant. And now we did all of standard-based grading for Calculus 1 and, pre-calculus at Hartnell and at CSUMB. So now CSUMB is implementing, both campuses are implementing in pre-calculus. So first year was focused on doing for pre-calculus, and second year now we are focusing on disseminating to other STEM courses and other campuses, and you're going to hear about that. So also wanted to show you in the pre-calculus, we know that this is one of the things that comes up all the time. How much work is it, right, to do it? It is a lot of work, But the good news is once you have done it, then it becomes a lot easier to adapt and continue to do it. So we had an amazing group of people here, on total 9 people working on pre-calculus among the 2 campuses. And I want to give a big shout out to my colleague Jeff One, who actually led the whole work on pre-calculus at CSUMB. So what we did is, luckily we learned a lot of things during our first year of calculus. So we followed that model and tried to recreate that for pre-calculus, and started with creating learning targets. So, and then created assessment for each of those learning targets, and then created multiple versions of those assessments, none of these are automated at CSUMB. So Hartnell has some automation, but for us, all the assessments are old style handwritten assessment. We created course syllabi and Canvas page because, as you know, at CSUMB, everything is highly coordinated. We have 11 sections of pre-calculus. Everybody uses the same Canvas page, most of the course material. Of course, we have room for the instructor to bring in their own, style to the teaching, but the basic structure is the same. And you can look at sample of this. We have linked them all for you. Just so you know how this went, 21-22 was calculus. We piloted, we created in the fall, piloted in the spring, and then went into full implementation following year. Here we had a little bit more time, so we started with piloting in both campuses, 2 sections and 1 sections in the first spring of the first year. Fall of the first year was all development. And then this year, we are all implementing, as you can see, 11 sections of pre-calculus and everybody at CSUMB is doing it. And in Hartnell also, we have 2 sections going on and we're hoping more people will come on board. As you know, that Hartnell is not coordinated and, so it's slightly different, but we do hope more people will come on board. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about what are we learning so far, because I think that's what most people are interested in. So wanted to tell you quickly. So of course, we used a few different ways of collecting data. Student grade and demographic data came from the institutional data and also from the CSU Student Success Dashboard. We have our own perception survey, and we used started collecting data from our Canvas gradebook. And if you want to know more about that, ask us later. And of course, we are seeing some positive results, and I'll show you more about how that is, and Ali will talk about it too. But I wanted to highlight that one quick thing to see here, if you look at Calc 1 data. So this is pre-COVID on the left. That's this last year. So we didn't make big changes in terms of changing the F and this part of the tail, but we're getting a lot more A's. So which is one of the goal to have more success, So there it's changing, but it's still early, right? So we're hoping it gives us more results. So it's one thing to start looking at. And also wanted to tell you that one of our goal was to reduce the gap between different, groups of students. Male and female, we saw that so the blue is male and this pink is female. As you can see, the gaps, we still are early in the data phase, but it's kind of closing down, so which is kind of nice. And then same thing in terms of first gen and second gen, as not first generation. So as you can see, closing the gap. And also keep in mind, this is kind of where the COVID, years were, so they were kind of all over the place. And this one also closing, I want to say that this gap seems like some issue with the data on the CSU dashboard, because our internal data doesn't show any gap here. So there's some confounding going on there in terms of how they're interpreting. So, and then quickly just wanted to show you in pre-calculus, all of those previous ones were for calculus. In pre-calculus, this is all CSU MB data for now. As you can see, just so you know, this is pre-COVID, and this is where we are now. And as you can see, in COVID, it was like just, and now we are quite happy, particularly for first generation and URM and not URM, as you can see. So went down a lot. Male and female is kind of interesting. It's kind of stayed the same, even though we're seeing, hopefully it comes down. So with that, I'll give it to Ali. I know we're.
Yeah, well, pretty briefly here. I'm not actually going to go over these slides, but I'm happy to talk about them later. There are a lot of aspects of this that we're seeing that are hard to capture in the data. The thing Nina was talking about with trust, really hard to measure the impact of that trust on our students. We have no data besides anecdotal, student anecdotes for that. We're starting to try and understand these aspects of diligence, performance, resilience over the time, looking at the rate at which students attempt on the first opportunity, reattempt, are eventually successful on various standards. And I'll just show you one of the statistics. This is just one of the graphs. And what we see until about the last 3 weeks of the semester is students are pretty consistently attempting each learning target on the first opportunity. So they're giving it a try. It's never going to be 100% CSUMB since our assessments are in class, so students don't attend at 100% attendance rate. but there's still really consistently, and the data shows that, high school GPA is a high predictor of whether they're attempting on the first attempt, opportunity, but also underrepresented minority status. Our underrepresented minority students are more likely to attempt at the first opportunity. So we also have some about, whether they eventually meet whether they meet the learning target on the first attempt, whether they eventually meet the learning target, and whether they, meet it by the end of the semester. So feel free to look at those on our slides.
Question.
Yeah.
Just noticing the decreasing pattern is
Mhm.
all these as the learning targets go out.
Yeah,
Do you have a feeling for that? Is it the complexity of the target?
Yeah.
well,
Run out of time?
no, it's, a big part of it is running out of time. Is there are fewer opportunities, fewer weeks in the semester that are left? Some of them, though, learning target, 11 and 15 in particular.
Yeah.
Those, for those of you who
Those
are
are hard
math,
ones.
math people in the room, those are related rates and applied optimization. So these are, for those who aren't, these are the word problems. These are really complex, standards, and so.
Should have had a, yes.
If we had time, we'd have done that.
Yeah, so it's definitely a combination of those two things.
But I guess that also suggests the benefits of trying to keep pushing this forward, that if they had more time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Such a.
and that's one of the other things that we want to be able to see in the data that we don't have the data, or we haven't analyzed the data for yet, is the rate at which students who don't pass the first time around, the rate at which they retake it, how quickly they retake it, do they retake it right away? And how successful are they the second time around?
And do they keep doing that all the way along?
Yeah.
Exactly,
Or do they give up after a while?
right.
Mhm.
And so we're really hopeful that, and we've seen that anecdotally, that these students who struggle the first time around, or but show that persistence, are really a lot more successful the second time around. We just need to look at the data for it.
Yeah. Our evaluator is on it.
Yeah, okay.
Hello,
Is that
my
a-
name is Kenneth Salim, and my overall experience with the standard-based grading was positive. One thing I really liked about it was how we had multiple chances or opportunities to assess on a subject. So this really helped for me with implicit differentiation, because at first I wasn't really able to get it, but through time I was able to get it. And I think it helped overall with my learning experience because I didn't really feel pressured, because I knew I had multiple chances to get it. And yeah, that's what I really like about the standard-based grading system.
So we've got some survey data. This is all folks who are in standards-based grading. There's a whole bunch of animation. I'm just gonna go forward.
Yeah.
Really strong agreement. This is pre-calculus with standards-based grading. Really strong agreement from students that exams and assignments were reflective of the course content. So clearly they are understanding with the standards what's expected of them and seeing that alignment. Less agreement that my grades in the course accurately reflect my knowledge, but still, 60% isn't too bad there. I think that's greater than we'd see in a non-standard based grading class. I feel confident about my ability to use the course content in future courses. So especially looking at the Hartnell students there, some strong agreement in that statement. And then,
I just want to say that 85% of there measures trust, I think. Expectations were
communicated clearly. Yeah, we didn't box that one, but you're right.
Mhm.
And then this was an interesting one. This course has increased my interest in STEM. The Hartnell students really agreed. CSUMB students, not so much.
Wow.
But I think, we haven't talked about this as a team. I think it's because at CSUMB, students who are taking pre-calculus have generally already declared a STEM major, which might not be the case.
Is not.
It's not the case at Hartnell.
Yeah, that's why Hartnell number is very important, because those are the kids we are trying to get into the pipeline.
Yeah.
We've had some discussions about why not so many non-STEM majors are
Yeah.
taking our pre-calculus. but-
So maybe our CSUMB students already have a high level of interest in STEM, and so it's not increasing their interest. Okay, I just want to briefly say, I'm not going to go into any details because I want to leave a couple minutes for questions here. Our current work is, Jennifer mentioned this already, we're in the middle of leading a 5-workshop series on Zoom, professional development to support faculty across the state in adopting standards-based grading in a STEM class. Here are our workshops. October 25th is, yeah, that's next week, so we're about halfway through.
Those recorded? Will you be able to share those after?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, oops. Oh, this isn't going
We
back.
have a
Oops,
canvas
there's a
page
backwards.
with everything, yeah.
There's a backwards, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've got a whole bunch of people register, and then some of them realized that it actually was a workshop series, which meant interaction. So we had some drop off, but what we're doing is we've got a Canvas page where we're able to share out the resources and the recordings. And so those 43 people will be able to access those later and use them the way that they want. But we're seeing 20 or so participants in each session, as well as 13 of faculty have committed to attending all the sessions and redesigning a course by the end
Wow.
of this year.
Wow.
So we're really excited about that.
How much for the stipends?
$1,000
Oh, that's great.
And those are across the country, it's not just local,
across California.
across California.
Yeah, so a lot of community college faculty in that number,
That's great.
mostly community college faculty. Okay, so, yeah, we got lots of stuff. Our slides are in the app. But I will bring us to here and take a couple minutes for questions.
So the slides are in the app as a PDF file, so like those links are not.
Oh, are they not working?
accessible.
They should work if you open it up on your laptop,
Like
Okay.
if you
Yeah.
download the.
Yeah,
PDF, yeah.
but we can put the PPT, we're just having issues. Yeah, but we'll try to put the,
We'll put, yeah,
But great.
yeah.
Thank you.
Also, feel free to reach us, we are happy to
Yeah.
share, and this goodies
Got that?
slide has a link to our Canvas page, our learning target, because I know when we started, like, what do you mean? What are those, all those stuff, so we are happy to talk more to you, and all of my team, that was amazing, so they'll just, reach out if any of this interests you.
And we do have also My Open Math courses created.
Yeah, so we
So
have
there's
a,
lots of-
on
lots of
Canvas,
stuff.
right, yeah, we have.
Yeah.
Can
Pedro.
I ask
Oh,
how
they're like-
like two different colleges, campuses come together and got to work together on this?
So we've worked together on a variety of things. We're neighboring campuses, so we're about 10 miles apart. So there's been past articulation work that we've done together, like, ooh, it'd be really nice if our students who transfer in had taken discrete math before doing a math major. Let's make that happen. So we had some existing relationships. But we also joined the Learning Lab call when they announced the grant opportunity, and some of us were both on the call and we're like, oh, we should talk.
Yeah, we have known some of us, each other, and then pulled people together, and since everyone had a common vision, I think that what's amazing is, so because our first grant, 21-22, was entirely done during COVID, so we actually did not meet in person to do all this work, everything was done on Zoom, so we are big, like Zooming.
We hadn't seen each other in person
We
in
are
5
the
years.
Zoomers,
I never met Lipika before.
I know, we met in person here, so you can imagine, so, but we never felt like we didn't meet, so
Right,
what
exactly.
Zoom is just amazing, even for this workshop, we have so many participants because it's on Zoom.
Yeah.
And it's
Exactly.
quite effective, actually, it's, so.
Yeah. Pedro and then Sophia.
That's two quick questions.
Uh-huh.
One is, what's the difference between mastery-based and standard-based grading?
I think a lot of the folks in this space are moving away from the word mastery as a master-slave
that.
relationship.
Branding thing?
Triggering.
It's not a great word to use,
But like
but I
that-
think the idea of mastery-based grading or alternative grading practice, standards-based grading falls under that umbrella. But there are a lot of different ways to do.
And then the other one was way more practical. So thinking about scaling it to UCSC, 200 people.
Right.
Is there a way, I guess Hartnell used something automated, right? I couldn't find a way to attach learning targets on Canvas to things that were not assignments, like Canvas-based assignments. How did you do that?
We can attach rubrics to Canvas assignments, right? Is that what you're referring to?
Well,
No, but you're thinking about like external tools,
yeah,
right?
so like, not
Oh.
even grade scope, I can attach.
Oh, like an external,
Right, because
Okay.
I would have even like maybe multiple choice things or maybe to an external tool
yeah.
that would handle the submission part,
Mhm.
but that cannot inform Canvas.
Right,
on
so
the
I,
targets.
the way I handle that, I don't know how you do that, but I do that like once a month. I go and manually, student by student. I have one assignment in Canvas, it's called My
Right.
Open Math.
Yeah.
And I have all the outcomes there.
Mhm.
And so then one student at a time, it really isn't, it doesn't take long because you can view all of the student, two screens. You can view all of the one student's, all of their quiz results. And you have your rubric and you just go down, and you go to the next student, down. So it's pretty quick, but I do have to do it manually once a month.
Mhm.
See, that's another
Definitely
grand
some
proposal.
work to be done to make it easy for 200 plus student classes.
Yeah. That's why we need that, yeah, I mean, how do we automate this?
We don't use Canvas, so that's.
Yeah, see, that's the thing, yeah. They're not using
Right.
Canvas.
And I know, yeah, Sophia had a question.
Hi there. Just want to say thank you so much for sharing. I really loved your presentation and I wish all, UCs, community colleges are all doing this, higher levels, lower levels. But my question is, I am doing this on a smaller scale, just kind of starting off because we're new faculty, so sometimes we're scared of what we're allowed to do and what we're not allowed to do. Like.
Just do it. Get tenure.
Yeah.
That's the secret.
My question is, so right now I am giving exams and letting them have 2 attempts on it. And so, but I keep that secret with them. I'm just like, I don't know, I'm scared to tell people that I do that. I don't know if it's because I'm scared to get in trouble or, oh, her class is easier, or she's passing more students. And then the other thing is, when I talk to the students, I try not to tell them they're gonna get a second attempt, because I want them to be in a mindset like, because for their next class, what if they get a teacher that's 1 attempt, high stakes, 50 minutes? So I'm almost scared to, I don't know, I'm just worried about their next, I wish Cal 3, they would all have it like this, and they could just have that same model. But I'm also worried that, they do end up with that old school teacher again, so.
I don't think, I mean, I have had that same worry but I still think, if you have a good experience and you're successful, like, yes, your next semester might not be that, and it might be harder, but you're still, like, you're still that far ahead, right? You're still helping the students and moving them forward.
See, I also want to add to that, because even if you take out this multiple attempting, teacher to teacher, they are very different classes.
Yeah.
So even if you're using all point-based grading, you can say that your class and another instructor class is going to give them similar experiences. So I think big picture, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But the goal would be eventually maybe pipeline will work out. So we have.
I have a comment to add to that. I think the students actually come out better prepared out of the system.
Yeah.
Because when they're doing the re-attempts and reassessments, they're actually thinking about what they're getting wrong and asking.
I agree.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
So they actually end up better prepared, so no matter what the format of the classes, they're gonna do well.
I want to add to what you two have responded. I can also see the concern from the fear of being perceived as an easy teacher, right? So what has finally given me the courage, I guess, to do this is to realize that it is an equity-minded practice, because our students who are called or labeled underprepared is really that they were not given the opportunities that many others were. Okay, they don't come. Parents don't send their worst students to us, right? They're sending their best to us. Are the students who show up to our classes are showing up at their best? They're not gonna show up at their worst, right? So keeping that in mind, I remember that I am there to serve them, not my colleagues.
No, please.
To that one. I totally agree. I think that the students who we label underprepared come from schools who haven't taught them how to think about what they're learning and how to revise their work and how to get better. Whereas students who we label prepared have had schooling that teaches them that. So I think it's our job now to teach them how to do that.
Yeah.
So I think it's
Yeah,
your match.
thank you so much.
And maybe your colleagues will be swayed by all the positive feedback. that
Yeah,
the
so I
students are
wanted to,
giving,
yeah, I
right?
wanted to tell you that, yeah, please have, so Sophia, have the conversation, open the door, like to other faculty, to your, I know it's sometimes intimidating, but bring research into it, what you have heard, what other people are doing. So I think once you start that conversation, maybe more and more people will come on board and hopefully, so we have,
Especially younger faculty.
yeah. And we're happy to talk more about, yeah.
Yeah.
I heard another phrase that's interesting about this is being a warm humanity.
Yeah,
Oh.
So you're not an easy teacher,
you're not an easy, yeah,
but you're
Yeah.
warm.
yeah, and then, yeah,
Chances.
Yeah.
But it's not like the next one is gonna be easier. So you're a warm demander.
mhm.
That's what I.
That's a very nice word, yeah.
One thing, sure if it's feasible for you to do that, but to look downstream, how are your students doing? Down in the Cal 2 or Cal 4, whatever class they're taking up to yours. And then with the institutional data, that's what we did when we developed online versions of calculus. The campus looked into downstream performance, and the students who took the online sequence did just as well or even slightly better than the students who went through the regular in-person version of the class. I mean, a lot of people were really kind of stunned to see this data. I wasn't, but, didn't quite believe it, but, this wasn't us doing the data analysis. It was institutional research and policy studies and senators. So it's the statisticians who looked into it, and they controlled for preparation and SAT scores and so on, so that you have data, not noise, right? And, so if you have an opportunity to do that, let's say in your project, review-based exams, so it's, that really is proof of concept, that'll shut everybody else up that's complaining.
That's right.
It's fantastic, because my students are doing just as well.
Yeah.
Or better.
Or better, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.